A very dangerous week ahead for the Bitcoin hodlers and crypto enthusiasts of this world, as if Bitcoin is going to have continuation to the downside, as we'll go over in today's video. It's very likely, if it is going to happen this week. Perhaps not today, but very likely this week, as we'll be going over. But before we get into that, I do want to let you know that you can actually join our Discord community for free in the link in the description below. You can interact with all sorts of amazing people from this world, also some very questionable people as well, and you might end up tearing out the rest of your hair, but you'll at least have some entertainment for that. And again, the link is in the description below. It's 100% free, and you get to interact with everyone, really. Anyways, let's jump into the actual content of today. And first things first, well, I did start off this video with a, I guess a bit more of like a clickbaity thing there, dangerous week for Bitcoin ahead. Today, Monday, unlikely to be that day. As we went over in the weekend video, on Friday's video, the weekend was very likely to initiate a bounce. However, if there is going to be continuation to the downside, very likely starts to happen this week, after that obviously weekend bounce, which we did see all the way up to just north of 58,000 bucks, which was one of the technical targets for this bounce, or just areas of interest. I wouldn't necessarily say that it was a target, just an area of interest for this bounce, which doesn't really change anything overall. Anyways, the reason why I do say that Monday is unlikely to see continuation to the downside is because Monday, statistically speaking, is a day that is most likely to close positively for Bitcoin. If we look at all of the Mondays since this bull market began in the beginning of 2023, with about 66, basically 2/3 of all Mondays closing positively for an average return of about 3.5%. That is actually very interesting because it plays into yesterday's strategy video, which, if you are unaware, I do have a strategy playlist on this YouTube channel. I think there's almost like 30 there now. I wonder if anyone else on YouTube has as many. But we were just looking at a very simple strategy of opening longs on Monday and then closing them at about 10 a.m. on Tuesday, 10 a.m. UTC. And you can see right here, just playing that out since 2018, which, by the way, these stats are very much similar throughout the full history of Bitcoin. It's been about a coin toss in terms of whether you would have closed profitably. However, because the profit factor is positive here, or above 1, there is a positive net profit, which, I do think is a very enlightening sort of way to be looking at this, because it does seem that Monday flows do matter. So Monday, likely to produce a bounce. We can also go into the performance summary right here, as I did backtest this one. We can see that the average bounce, the average winning trade was about 370-ish, 3.70%. So taking today's taking today where that trade would have opened, 3.5% to the upside would put Bitcoin somewhere around about 57,000 bucks if it does get there. It's actually around the average gain for Monday as well. So it does look to capture most of those sort of initial beginning of week gains. But moving on from there, if there is going to be downside, very likely it does begin probably Tuesday. Why is that? Because Tuesday is, the most likely to close negatively out of any one of the weekdays, with about almost 63% of all Tuesdays closing negatively for the highest average negative return of any weekday at almost 3%. So obviously today, unlikely to see the breakdown, probably a bit of a bounce attempt. And the real question is, does Bitcoin fall apart tomorrow? Because if it is going to fall apart, we very likely do expect that to happen within this next sort of 5-day spread, as we are going to close a 5-day time frame today. The reason why this is significant is, first I have to explain a couple things. The reason why this is significant, because it's based off of a setup that we have seen throughout the full history of Bitcoin, which is based off of the BBWP representing volatility, aka the dispersion of returns getting down towards extreme lows, which we define as below 15 percentile or more. And then once the expansion phase happens from those extreme lows, which we're seeing right now as volatility does tick up and expand here, well back above that 15 percentile number, we can see that the direction of the stochastic oscillator is still positioned to the downside, which, historically speaking, when we see volatility expansion from extreme lows alongside whatever direction the 5-day stochastic oscillator positioned, that has a high degree, a very high probability of having a big momentous move in that direction. And so far we've seen this since the 5-day stochastic oscillator was crossed to the downside in middle of June, which is where we started to get, more cautious on this price action. And for right now, Bitcoin is about to close its next 5-day time frame tonight in 16 hours, 38 minutes, and 51 seconds and counting. And so assuming that Bitcoin especially closes anywhere below 58,000 bucks, we're going to see volatility expansion confirmed. We're going to see 5-day stochastic also to continue to the downside, assuming today closes below 66,100. And I would still say that's downside more likely. Now, from the beginning of this sort of expansion phase when volatility was on the floor to today, on today's closure, that is going to mark off 30 days. The reason why that is important, the reason why this one plays into the overall timing of this next move, if there is going to be continuation of the downside, is if we go over all of the, if I bring it up over here, let me just one moment. If we go over all of the instances where we've seen this particular setup in the past for the downside, so looking at the 5-day volatility versus stochastic momentum short setup, we can see that on average it takes a little over 36 days to play out. So 36 days to play out, well, and we're on day number 30, well, the next 5 days would bring us closer to that average, which is kind of where we do expect this move to find its totality if it is going to go down more. So this next 5-day spread, I would still be erring towards more downside. If there is going to be a breakdown, it's most likely to happen within that time. But the longer that goes on, past about 35 days, if Bitcoin fails to break down, you're going to start to see me flip around to saying, hey, I think the lows are in here, and Bitcoin's going to reverse maybe around end of month. But that would imply that Bitcoin does not make new lows between now and when's the next 5-day closure? What's 5 days from today? Saturday, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how to count, but yeah. Also of interest here is that we can see the average returns for this particular setup is actually around 38.5%. We also calculated a first standard deviation of returns here as well, which gave a range between about 26% on the lower end to almost 45.5% on the upper end. And if we take that from our current high to where price action is, to the current low price action, Bitcoin has hit the lower end of the first standard deviation. So it's at about 25.5% drawdown from the high of that last failed rally in early June. So putting all these puzzle pieces together, yes, we are already at the lowest end of those targets. We are still not around the average amount of days that we would expect for this move to play out. There would still be another 5 or so days between now and then. And obviously, if this one were to go closer to the average, well, that would be closer to like 38.5% to the downside, which would put Bitcoin, at about 46,000 bucks. Of course, it's going to go more than that as well, but I don't think that we're going to see like a cycle break here. Actually, I the more that I look at it, I don't think that that's what's happening. But yes, that's a very interesting number in the, let's say, mid 40s, because it also correlates incredibly well with the basement price to produce a Bitcoin, Bitcoins. Anyways, what I'm referring to is the bottom end of this channel right here, the electrical cost to produce a Bitcoin, which is $46,239.66. The reason why I'm pointing this out is because Bitcoin, anytime that it's come down around the bottom end of this channel, those have been macro lows or like major lows anytime that Bitcoin's actually tested it throughout its full history. So if it did come down around there, that would be very likely a major opportunity, and we probably don't see Bitcoin drop much lower than that, if at all. So I do think that the worst case scenario for this move is probably somewhere around mid 40s, probably 46,000 bucks. If it does get there, I would be looking at that as an opportunity. I think it would also be a really good sort of balancing point, because the majority of this market would get super bearish, super scared, more so than right now, which I don't think the market is there, at least not from what I can tell, because all I see on Twitter and YouTube is like how Bitcoin's already put in the low right now, and it's already, it's bad enough, we need to go back up. Everyone triumphantly posting about that, which is fine. I mean, maybe that is correct, but for the next 5 days, I would not be on the same side of that just based off statistics. That's what I go off of here. So in this case, it is interesting to see that these two things line up. On top of that, as we began this video with, this is a quarterly time frame right here for Bitcoin. You can see that there is bearish divergence building up between the 2017 highs, the 2021 highs, and maybe these January highs here in 2024. On chart, we can see that Bitcoin has caught wind of the 5 exponential moving average right here, that red moving average. But the next sort of, obvious target, if this one were to come down, would be this cyan moving average based off of that bearish divergence. If that does play out, guess where that exactly is? Just below 46,000 bucks. Very interesting right there. So, if we were to see Bitcoin come down around there, at the very minimum, I do think that there'd be a significant bounce. Personally, if it does align with the bottom end of this channel, I would be probably very confident in saying, hey, that's probably the low of this move, and this is a major opportunity, and this is a time to accumulate. But for right now, it is pressure to the downside, at least for these next 5 days. And personally, I'll be waiting for that. On top of that, and what everyone's waiting for is the moons. We have a bare moon, and you need to look no further than this than to know that Bitcoin's going to hell. No, of course not. It is just funny to be looking at and to see if this works yet again. It does seem that the last few have been pretty significant, I would say, in terms of producing downwards price action, like we see right here from that early June date, and then again over here from early April, and even on, or basically around the all-time high for Bitcoin as of right now in early March. So, looking at all these things, personally speaking, I do have to be still looking towards downside. Doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to happen, but if Bitcoin fails to continue to new lows by the end of this next 5-day period, again, Saturday, and really, if it fails to move towards new lows, probably by Tuesday is what we really would expect. You're gonna see me flip around to start being bullish. But until then, I do think that it is a dangerous time if you want to be, bullish. And maybe that's a good place for me to end in this video. In fact, I'll end this video with a very positive message from the king. The king would like to speak with you, and I'll hand it over to the king over here and let him take it away.
Bills. Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Good morning, my queens above 18. You got the king here.
Oh, no.
You guys get up, get your day started. It's going to be a beautiful day. If you guys are from the Ohio area, it's supposed to be gorgeous today. A little chilly, but you just put a blanket on the bed for the night, get you a coat, and go out and enjoy.
What's that mean?
Have a good day. If you got to go to work, you have a good day at work. Inspire somebody today. Tell them they look very nice.
That's a very positive
Tell
message.
them that you love them.
Oh.
You guys have a good weekend. Keep up the good videos. Send me some videos.
Send me some videos.
You have a good weekend, and I will talk to
Send
you
me
Monday.
some videos. Send me the videos. The king needs more videos. Not me, but the actual king needs more videos. And you can find him at hello my queens above 18 at king.com, I think. Anyways, we'll end it right there. As always, I want to wish you the best. Again, caution this week until basically Saturday. If Bitcoin fails to move to new lows this week, going to start to see me flip around to be bullish. And actually, now that I mention it, or now that I see it right here, it does look like maybe on the next tick, but certainly on the one after that, we will see that this 5-day trendline regression is going to be tested. So yeah, maybe a few points of confluence coming out of there. The question is, how far does Bitcoin go down first before that inevitably does happen? And that is the question of the day. I'll leave you with the king. With that said, take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.